named Kaptain.
I'm Lynn.
And today we're doing a Cull video. What is the date today?
July 16th.
July 16th, 2019. So we are doing, this is going to be our final Cull from our collection before Gen Con. We need to make a lot of space because we know we're getting a lot of new games at Gen Con, as we always do. So these are games we've been going through our collection over the last couple weeks and finding games that either we were meh on or just aren't getting played anymore, or maybe one of us totally hated while the other was okay with, but you know, because of that, it's not going to get played anymore. And we're going to be culling these. So without any further ado, let's get to it. Do you want to go first or second?
I'll go first.
Okay. What's the first one?
My first one is Edge of Humanity.
I just heard everything fall out of its slots in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna
have to fix that later. So Edge of Humanity is like a, it was weird. It was like a post-apocalyptic survival game.
Yeah. I don't honestly remember too much about it.
Well, it used a lot of cards.
It was just okay.
And there were sets of cards. You did different sets for different scenarios for the end of the world.
Yeah.
And it had an interesting system, but it just didn't really click with either one of us. Like, neither one of us, after playing it, were like, oh my god, this game is amazing. We were both just kind of like, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And that was why you pulled it, right?
Yeah. It's okay, but it's not great.
It didn't thrill us.
Yeah.
And we didn't even wind up playing it enough to review it. We were just kind of like, because I think we only played it once. We played one of the scenarios and we were like, Well, our next one here is Doomtown Reloaded. It is a dueling card game that used to be a collectible card game, and they re-released as kind of like a living card game. And we have 2 copies of it because it came with our entrance to the AG Game Night a number of years back. And it had a really interesting system whereby, in addition to playing like a CCG, when you had a shootout with someone, you actually had to make poker hands. So the cards were all dual purpose. There would be a poker number and suit, and they would also be, you know, whatever the card did. So when you were deck building, you had to think both about like what the card did and trying to sometimes aim your deck towards making good poker hands, which was really tough and interesting. And we played it a bunch when we first got it, but then we just sort of stopped playing it. I think it's just a matter of it competes with too many other dueling heads-up games that we have. We have quite a few now. Back when we got this, we didn't have that many, and now we have a lot. So this just, I guess it just kind of loses out to a lot of the other 2-player dueling games that we have. So that is Doomtown Reloaded.
My next one is Age of Thieves. And this one, you're a thief. You're trying to infiltrate a castle, steal something, and get back out. And you're like avoiding guards and everything. And it's really... It has a map of a city with a castle in the middle and little spaces that your thief goes on and the guards patrol around. It's like a simulation more than anything. And it was fine, but again, it didn't click with us. It wasn't like the greatest game.
And this was another one. We played it once and it wasn't like it was great. It wasn't like it was terrible. It was the middle of the road and we didn't want to play it again, and so we didn't even play it enough to review it. Yeah. So we were just kind of like, you know, it didn't interest us enough, either as a positive or a negative. So middle of the road, we didn't even play it again. All right, so the next one I have here is one that makes me a bit sad because I actually quite liked this when we first played it. Ashes Rise of the Phoenixborn. It falls into the same problem that Doomtown Reloaded did. It is a 2-player dueling game. And it was very interesting and fun, but we just have too many games, and it's got that are like this, too many 2-player games. And this just doesn't hit the table over, say, games like Phase or Fight for Olympus, other 2-playing dueling card games that we like better. So it just never hits the table anymore. And I mean, we didn't dislike this. We both rated it positively. I think I'm currently still at a 7 for this. It just, you know what? Holding on to this is holding on to a game because I liked it, even though I have games that I like more than it that fill the same niche. It just doesn't make sense, which is why it's getting cold.
My next one is the King's Abbey. This is a dice worker placement, and there was just too many things going on that I thought you get attacked by Vikings. You get tithed by the church, and it's just like by the end of your turn, you have no money left to do anything because
This one clicked more with me than you. I actually liked this one, but we have a million worker placement games,
Yeah.
and even as much as I liked it, I don't go like, oh, we have to play that.
And if I'm gonna play a game where the church is tithing the bejesus out of me, I'm gonna play World Without End.
Which you love.
So,
You adore World
yeah.
War. I liked the whole roll the dice, and then depending on what you got, you could use them as workers for different spaces. Was kind of neat. But yeah, that was your game, and then you not liking it, obviously it was going to go. So this was another game we had gotten for free. This was a giveaway at the Stink one year, Pirates Tactics. It's kind of like a modern update to the game of War, in a way. Makes it a little more complicated, but not much. And it was just okay. It wasn't great. We played it a few times. But yeah, we're going to get rid of it. No, what is it you always say?
No reason to hold on to mediocre games.
And that fits this one to a T.
My next one is... it's upside down. My next one is Detective.
What's the subtitle? A modern crime board game?
A modern crime board game.
Can I point out before you get into what this is about that this is an interesting one because this was like your number one most anticipated game last year.
Well, I think because I realized after I bought this game and some other games that are similar mechanics that I really want to like these like deduction games where you're like you have case files and all this stuff but I just don't. It's like I want to like it, but I don't. It's like I want to like gardening, but I'm terrible at it and I really don't enjoy it.
Wait, are we talking about actual gardening or gardening games?
Actual gardening.
Oh,
it's like
okay.
the same thing. I'm always like, oh, those flowers are so pretty, and maybe I'll give it another shot. Like, no, I just don't like it.
And my problem with this one was there was a bit of historical revisionism in here. They had a bit, and it was weird. Like one of the cases, for some reason, they made it have to do with the Holocaust, which was so unnecessary because the game takes place in modern time for it to have any link to the Holocaust. And then they did a TLDR about the Holocaust just in case you'd never heard of the Holocaust. I guess there's some people out there. But if you had never heard of the Holocaust and all you heard about the Holocaust in this TLDR was this TLDR, then you would have thought that the Holocaust was solely, not primarily, solely perpetrated against the Poles and no one else. Like their prime target, apparently, according to this game, was Polish people. And I was like, what about like, I don't know, Jews and gypsies and gays and the handicapped? So I was a little perturbed by the historical revisionism in this. I know there's some weird stuff going on with the laws over in Poland in regard to the Holocaust, and that might have something to do with it. But then they didn't have to make it linked to the Holocaust at all. That was just a really weird decision. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And then on top of it, I didn't even really like the game. So whatever. I was with you on that. The game was just not thrilling.
Yeah.
The app portion was interesting, but I was like, whatever. I don't know. That was one of those games where I played it sitting on the couch. I didn't even feel like it was a board game. I felt like it was a social exercise masquerading as a game. You got another one of those in your group here. All right, so my next one is Ninja Camp. Ninja Camp is a fun little card game. I quite liked it, but Lynn hated it. So I decided to cull it because it just never hits the table anymore. I'm actually going to give this one to a friend who I think will get to play it more than I have been getting to play it because Lynn does not like it. But it's a cutesy little game with ninja animals, and each of the ninja animals has its own ninja style. It's on their own martial arts style, and I think it was really cool. But the thing is with games like this, if Lynn doesn't like it, I'm probably not going to get to play it because the people I play games with that Lynn doesn't like, usually we go into more hardcore like war games that Lynn is not in the mood for. So this is not one that's going to ever hit the table for me, even though I liked it, and because it hasn't been hitting the table for probably a couple of years now, I decided to get rid of it.
My next one is Lickety Quick. It's a card game.
You liked that one for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we just never play it. It's a like grammar card game about English language. It's
a speed-based one, too. You gotta be really fast.
You have to you get a card that has a letter on it, and then a card that says like a verb or an adjective, and you have to say a word that starts with that letter and is...
And slap it down.
Yeah.
You gotta slap the card down. It just, it doesn't hit the table anymore. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it was fun for a little bit. But, I mean, unless you have, like, kids and they're... I don't know. I prefer Mad Libs. I think Mad Libs are more fun.
Okay. The actual Mad Libs. Not like... I think they made a Mad Libs game.
Oh, did they?
I think
no,
they did.
I mean, like, actual
The actual Mad Libs. I don't think... Because we haven't tried the Mad Libs game. So my next one was another one I enjoyed, but it just doesn't get to hit the table, and that is Submerg. The problem with Submerg is it's a worker placement game, and it was a good worker placement game. But we are huge fans of worker placement. We have unbelievable numbers of worker placement games in our collection, and this one just does not hit the table over games like Asking for Troubles and Manhattan Project and Libraria and Lords of Waterdeep and Everdell. I mean, we have so many worker placement games that this one just gets lost in the shuffle. And we actually haven't played it in a while, and we liked it when we played it, but it just... We were looking at it, and we're like, this just never comes out anymore. It really doesn't, and it makes me kind of sick, because it's a beautiful-looking game. It had some cool mechanics with different types of workers that were interesting. There were 2 levels of workers, and the more advanced level could only go on spaces marked for them, but they could also go on the weaker spaces, whereas the lower level workers could only go on the weaker spaces. So, yeah... Unfortunately, it is getting cold. That is Submerg.
My next one is Wordsy, another word game. This one is more similar to... I don't know what it's really similar to.
I thought it was a cross between Boggle and Scrabble, but more interesting. I actually kind of liked it.
You only get... you get like a...
8 letters, I think.
Is it 8? You get 8 letters, and then you have to make a word containing those letters.
But you can use others.
It doesn't... Yeah, I was getting to that.
Oh, my bad.
It doesn't need to contain all 8 letters, and you can use letters that aren't there. But the more letters from the tableau that you can get in your word, the more points it's going to be.
Yeah, because there's point totals for the letters that are out there. I actually kind of liked this, and I was surprised that you didn't. We played it a few times when we reviewed it. You liked it a little bit at first, but you were lower on your rating on this than me, and I usually don't like word games.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the problem, though. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it appealed to people who aren't normally into word games.
I think so.
Because you're usually a word game person, and I'm not. So my next one is an expansion to a game I love, but the expansion made me... not very pleased. So Oni-Tom is a great game. I still highly recommend Oni-Tom, and I highly recommend the first expansion to it. But the second expansion, Way of the Wind, is a hard pass for me. I bought it, and I regret my decision. It had mechanics that did not add anything to the game, and on top of that, it had a couple extra cards that you could add in for the normal card mechanics, but the backs were a slightly different color, so they were sort of marked. So all in all, production and game, Oni-Tom: Way of the Wind is one that I regret buying. I actually regret buying it, and that's freaking sad, especially since I like the regular game so much. But yeah, that's getting cold.
My next one is, it's 3 books. They're like...
Hold them up a little bit because they're getting lost in the bottom.
So...
We only played one of them.
We only went through this Wild West one,
yes.
And I mean, it was cool. It came with like a little bookmark to help you keep track. It's supposed to be like a 1-player RPG almost.
Yeah.
Where with this one, you're like the sheriff of a small, western town, and you go exploring in the desert. You can find a gold mine, but it was just, I don't know. It was all right, but it wasn't great.
I had some.
I mean, the binding is starting to fall apart. It wasn't.
The production on these is terrible. After playing it only a handful of times, this book is falling apart. And that's awful. That should not be. I mean, this is a game that, literally, you cannot play this game only once and do well. You will play it, and there's a lot that they don't tell you in the rules, where it's like, you discovered, and you're like, oh, wow, if I do this thing, terrible things will happen. So I have to go back and start over at some point, because this is not how this goes. So you cannot play this game only once and do well. I played this like 3 or 4 times, and you played it like twice, and the book's falling apart. And on top of that, a lot of the rules are fairly enigmatic. Like in this, they had 2 collectibles you had to look for. And if you found them, you were allowed to collect them. And one was horseshoes and the other was coins. So the coins just look like discs. There's nothing on them. So there were a lot of times where I couldn't tell if it was a coin or a pebble because they looked the freaking same.
Right, yeah.
And so like I didn't find, and then also it said you can take any coin that's not on, any coin or horseshoe as long as it's not on someone. But it didn't specify exactly what that meant because there's a scene where there's this guy counting money and there's a million coins on the table and you're like, well, they're not on someone, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't want me to get a million coins right here, even though it didn't specify that. So I'm pretty sure this doesn't count. But then also the thing with the horseshoes was there was a couple scenes where they specifically showed a horse with its foot up and you could see one horseshoe.
Yeah, or like this guy has a horseshoe on his belt buckle. But
so that can't count.
But like he's dead. He's dead, so you should be able to take that.
Right. Well, yeah, the horseshoe on the horse, does the horse count as someone?
Right.
Like, I don't know. And I kind of figured it didn't, but it doesn't tell you. So the rules were met. The production was met because it's falling apart. Yeah. It's too bad because the idea was interesting, but we only played one of them and we're like, yeah, these are not for us. Not happy with those. We were not happy with those. I'm sorry I jumped in all over yours.
It's all right. I mean,
because you agree? Did you agree with everything I was saying? Yeah. All right. So the next one is one we never played. We got it in an AG game night box. It's 8 epics. So yeah. This was one where it's obviously meant to be played with a good number of players. And it was one we never would have bought ourselves. We weren't interested in it at all. It came in the AG Game Night box. We went to AG Big Game Night at Gen Con, and we never felt the need to try it. And eventually we were just like, you know what, forget it. Let's get rid of it. We never even played it. We were like, it didn't appeal to us. And like I said, we wouldn't have bought it if it hadn't been in the box.
Next one is Spy Alley.
We won this.
We won this.
Yeah. At
something.
It was at the gaming marathon for charity that I went to. We won it, but it was not something either one of us were really interested in. It's just been sitting on a shelf.
It looks sort of interesting. Like it looks interesting enough where we held on to it for a couple of years because we were all like, oh, maybe we'll play it because it looks a little bit interesting, but. Yeah, we never played it.
It's never hit the table.
And at this point, we're like, we're probably never going to play it.
No, we're never going to play it. Okay, the next one was one I was very excited for and then was a little bit disappointed in, and that is Gateway Uprising. Now, we've never got a chance to review this one. But they were... Okay, so this was a weird sort of semi-cooperative game, and there were things about it I really liked. But there were things in it that were really annoying. Depending on how many players you were playing, there were some events that did come up and they'd just like screw up everything for everyone and there was like nothing you could do about it. And then you'd be like, well, this isn't fun anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's weird because like up until that point you were having fun and then that certain event came up and I almost thought about like removing those events just because they were terrible. But just bottom line, it was a really cool looking game. It had an interesting concept. The mechanics were interesting, but some of the specific cards in here just really ruined the experience. And yeah, we just haven't been trying to even get it to the table anymore. So Gateway Uprising is going bye-bye.
My next ones are, it's the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and then the add-on. Consulting
Detective, Jack the Ripper, and the West End Adventures.
I think I did like a couple... There's like 10 in here, and I think I did like 7 or 8.
So you did most of them.
Yeah, and I never actually did any in here. And it's again, like I said with Detective, like, I just really want to like this style of game, but I don't. And since no one else likes it, like, he won't play it with me anymore.
I played a few of them with you, and then I was like, I'm not playing this game anymore. I don't like it.
I tried doing it by myself, but again, it's like really hard with just one person because you don't get the other perspectives that other people might think of, you know?
I felt like this wasn't even a game. This is the other one I was referring to before when I said it felt like a social experience. I played this laying on the couch. I really hated that the way it was set up. Occasionally you would go down from a lead that you had done in the wrong order, and the person you'd be asking questions would be referring to things you didn't know yet, and you'd be like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, you literally take a test, a written exam to decide your score. And I was like, no, this is terrible. You liked it. You kept trying to play it, but I think because originally when you played it, I think you gave it like 9 stars.
Yeah.
So like after your first game, you loved it, but I think you just soured on it over time, I guess.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it got really hard, and it's not really fun playing it by yourself, you know?
And no one else likes it.
Yeah.
Did you try it with Liz? Did she like it?
She tried it with both of us.
Oh, okay. But she was not as big a fan either.
No, she didn't really like it either.
Okay. So nobody liked it but you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sure there's someone out there who likes it, but go ahead and comment down below. But yeah, that one did not click with us at all. All right. So the next one is the Undercity. So now this is a dungeon crawler or RPG light game, as I like to call them. Now, when I was a kid, I was really into these. I used to play Hero Quest, and I used to play Dragon Strike. There were a bunch of these I was really into. But I think just over time, because I got more into real role-playing games later. Back then, when I was a kid, I didn't play much in the way of real role-playing games. So I played these RPG lights. But now I have this feeling that when I play these, I'm like, if I want to play this kind of thing, I'll play an actual role-playing game. So I keep trying to get these, or I've kept anyway. I think I'm going to stop now. Even though they don't really thrill me. And that's the thing is because I've gotten into real role-playing games, this feels like a half measure to me, so it doesn't really thrill me anymore. And it's not that it's a bad game. I actually thought it was pretty fun, but I also, at the same time, was like, yeah, I should just get another role-playing game group together and play an actual role-playing game. But that was the Undercity, and that's why it's getting cold.
My next one is Pocket Imperium, which doesn't even fit in the box.
So now this one
properly.
is 100% on you because I liked this game.
I didn't,
Yeah.
obviously.
So this was it was meant to be like,
It annoys me that it's not.
well, we'll have to even out the pieces.
Yeah.
But it was meant to be a small, fast, diceless version of a 4X game. So think Twilight Imperium is a tiny little game. And I liked that, and I appreciated what they tried to do. But you were not a fan at all, and then therefore I never get to play it because you need at least 3 people for it. So that was a problem. Okay, so my next one is one I've never even opened. This was meant to be our first legacy game that we were going to try. Only while we were waiting to get people together to commit to a trying of Seafall, we instead tried a different legacy game that a friend of ours recommended to us, which was, what was that one?
Charterstone?
Charterstone, that's it. I was not a fan of Charterstone, and I'd kind of decided after playing a handful of games of it that the whole legacy game concept really wasn't for us, because we tend to much more have different varying groups of people show up. Sometimes some people show up, sometimes others, sometimes some from group A, sometimes some from group B mixed together. And we very rarely have like just the same people again and again and again for these games. So it just doesn't really fit for our group. And then on top of that, there were a lot of people who really didn't like this game. There was a lot of negativity, and it kept me from actually opening it and trying it. Plus, like I say, I was not really a fan of the one legacy game we tried. Also, I didn't like, actually I thought I would like the constant changing of the rules, and I didn't really like it. I didn't really like that whole constant changing of the rules. So this one wound up being one we never opened, and I'm just going to sell it, and that is Seafall.
My next one is Junk Orbit.
And this one's totally on you too, because I liked this game.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It was terrible.
I disagree wholeheartedly. I thought it was fun. I like the whole pick up and deliver. I like the physics engine that when you fired off junk in one direction, your shit moved the same distance in the other direction. Yeah, I quite like this game. But again, this is one of those games where if Lynn really doesn't like it, I'm never going to get to play it. So, because it just will not hit the table. So, my next one is a game that I liked, but was possibly a bit too involved. And that is Heavy Steam. It just doesn't hit the table over other games. So the thing was, this was like a one-on-one mech fight. You and your opponent had a steampunk mech. And the controlling of the mech was done almost like worker placement, where you had steam cubes that you used like workers, and you had a big board that was like an outline of your mech, and you'd send them down one arm, and then 2 turns later when they made it to the spot, that arm would attack. And it was crazy involved. And I kind of like that, but at the same time, it just took too long to do everything. So again, this is another one. It's like a dueling game. And it just, because of that, it just doesn't hit the table over a lot of other dueling games, which is too bad because I really like the artwork. I really like the theme, and I thought it was really interesting. But that is heavy steam, and that one's getting cold. I'm going to pull some of mine closer so I can reach them. You got it.
Okay. My next one is Reef. I just didn't like it.
This was okay. This was one from Emerson Matsuuchi.
It seemed like counterintuitive most of the time. Like I just didn't like.
So okay.
Do not want.
All right. So this is one from Emerson Matsuuchi, who made Century Golem Edition that we're both big fans of and hits the table a lot. I bought this one specifically for that reason. I'm like, oh, it's Emerson Matsuuchi. I have to buy this. However, I felt it was too simple. And I'm kind of with you on this. It's not that I disliked it. I just was like, yeah, I don't think I would ever play this over Century Golem Edition. And it had a similar kind of pattern forming it had a pattern forming mechanism, but also it had some similar sort of mechanics to Century Golem Edition. And I was like, I'd probably play Century over this. So I was a little disappointed in it. You really didn't like it. So yeah, we're just getting rid of it. Okay, so my next one is Deja Vu Fragments of Memory. Now, this is one that we did a review on, and in the review I said it's probably making it to the Cull pile, and it has, and it's 100% because there are some things in here that I feel like just don't work. Specifically, the way the board sets up, it's too easy to jostle around and move and get messed up while playing, and then not know where it was. You're like, oh, was it there? Were those pieces touching? I don't remember. And then the other thing that was a big problem with this is just that it's got a very similar core mechanic to the Game 5 Tribes that we adore. And we both were like, will we ever pull this out over 5 Tribes? And the answer was no for us. Unfortunately, because it's a beautiful game, really nice production, love the look of it. It's just not going to hit the table for us. So hopefully someone else will give it a good home.
My next one is One Deck Dungeon. I think we played this once and
you hated it.
It wasn't good.
Yeah, I thought it was mediocre at best. So it was one of those. Yeah, big sigh worthy. Next one is a game we played a lot back in the day, but it just doesn't hit the table anymore, and that is Castle Panic. This is one of the games that helped me to realize I'm not a fan of co-op games.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool at first, but after a while I started to realize that, generally speaking, every time one person winds up organizing everybody to help you win, but that's not a good thing. You're not all actually contributing. It's hard to make a co-op game where that doesn't happen. I feel like a good example of a game where that doesn't happen is Mysterium. And Mysterium is my favorite co-op game because of it, the way that there are the different roles and all, and you really do talk to each other and try to help each other in a positive way without just taking over for each other. But in this one, it inevitably lends itself 100% to alpha gaming. That's what people call it. You just, because someone will take charge and direct everyone else.
Quarterbacking? Isn't that what they call it?
Quarterbacking.
Yeah.
And I would often be the one who was quarterbacking, but I realized, and I didn't really like it. I didn't like that it made me do that. I know some people will say it's not the game's fault; it's your fault for being a jerk. But you know what? I really kind of feel like there are some games that lend themselves to it, and there's some games that don't. And this is a game that lends itself to it, while a game like Mysterium doesn't. Because I don't ever do it in Mysterium, and I don't want to do it. Believe me, I don't. It's just that when everyone else is sitting around the table, not knowing what to do and staying quiet, someone inevitably is going to be like, okay, do you got something to deal with it in the next turn when this guy moves one space forward? Yes? Good. You hold and you're going to do that. Do you got something? You know what I mean? And that just happens. And because of that, it's leaving the collection. Castle Panic. Bye-bye.
My next one is...
another expansion.
Expansion for Lanterns. It's The Emperor's Gifts. Gifts? Yes.
Gifts.
Gifts.
Did you say a T in there? Say gifts.
Gifts.
Continue.
I honestly don't. I think we played it once.
We played it once. It wasn't. It didn't add anything.
I don't even remember what it did or did not.
There were it was a bunch of optional rules, and the problem was none of them added anything to the game where we were like, the game is better with this than without it. Like in all cases, we were like, the game is better without this. And we played it once and we never used it again.
Yeah.
So it's going bye-bye. Okay, my next one is a game, Archetype. Now, Archetype was a fun little indie anime-looking game where you did like arena combat. It was amusing. It had some interesting mechanics with portals and such. But all in all, it's just one of those that just, it never hits the table anymore. And it's too bad because I did kind of like the look of it and I dug the monster arena combat thing. But yeah, if it's never going to hit the table, what's the point of it taking up space on the shelf?
And next one is, we have two. One's
AEG Game Night reason.
AEG Game Night. One is even open, I think, because we wanted to look at the rule book or something. But it's Junta las Cartas, which we really have no interest in playing this game.
Yeah, this was another one that came in the AEG Game Night box, and we were like, we never would have bought this on our own.
Yeah. I think, well, how many players? Is it even, like, have 2 players? I don't, it doesn't say. Oh, that's
3 to 8.
Oh. Where do you
3 to
see
6. It says right there on the player count.
Okay, yeah, so, like, we hardly ever have 3 players. And when we do have 3 players, we're going to play a game that we actually want to play.
Yeah, so it kind of was... So this was another, and this was not a bad game, Titan Tactics. This was another little indie arena combat game that had this interesting like pendulum mechanic on the damage. You attack people and the points like swung back and forth. It wasn't really like killing them. It was like swinging a pendulum, but it was okay. It was pretty good. It just doesn't hit the table anymore. Again, it's got too much competition for like dueling games, heads up dueling games that we have in our collection. And this one hasn't hit the table in a long time. So I think it's just going to leave for that reason. And hopefully someone else will give it a good home.
This is another one, 60 Seconds to Save the World. So we got this in the AEG game box. We only have the 1 copy because we gave 1 copy away to someone else. We did play this. It was, I thought it was okay, but again,
it was fun.
Yeah, it's like I'm never, it was just all right.
Well,
like,
it's a co-op game. I'm not a big fan of co-op games. And if you have co-op games that you're wanting to get rid of, I'm not going to argue because I'm not a huge co-op game person.
Right.
Because the co-op games are usually more your domain. And then here's the question. Are you going to ever play this over, say, like when I am in the mood for a co-op game, would you ever pick this one out over, say, like Jupiter Rescue or Shadow over Westminster?
No.
So then there you have it, right? Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, so my next one is a standalone expansion to Gosu. It is Kamakor. Now, Gosu is a game I will always hold on to because on the rare occasions when I do have someone who will still play it with me, because everyone else I think is actually tired of it other than me, I will still play Gosu, but I kind of felt the expansion didn't really add much. I didn't think the new factions were all that interesting. I prefer to just play with the original factions in Gosu, so there's no reason to hold on to the expansion for me. Though I will still hold on to the original game. But that is Kamakor, and that is going bye-bye.
My next one is Love Letter, but it's the big game night edition.
Yeah, it was a special version.
Yeah, and I think we played Love Letter
once,
and it's not really our thing.
No,
it's kind of boring.
Didn't really click with us. The game.
So
this is one of those that they're doing tons of versions of it, kind of like Flux and whatnot. But we like Flux better than Love Letter. Love Letter is not one where we were like, oh god, yeah, I got to play lots of that, you know. So. The next one is a game I've never played. My cousin got this game and dumped it on me. So I don't know why he like kickstarted it. I don't know why he kickstarted it if he had no interest in playing it, but apparently he didn't. He got it and didn't want to play it. And then he tried to like tell me I should learn to play it and teach him. And I tried to tell him no about 3 times, and then he like forced me to take it. And it's been sitting on the shelf for over a year. And I just came to the conclusion that I'm like, no, I'm not going to, I don't care. I didn't kickstart this game. I wasn't interested in it. I keep looking at it and the art style bores me to tears. So
it says 2 to 8 players. Like that's a very large range of players.
Yeah. It just doesn't seem interesting to me. So I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to play it. So I'm getting rid of it. It's going bye-bye. And again, it had nothing to do with the game itself, just me. It's not a game for me, and I didn't even choose to get it.
The next one is Nuts. It's a card game where you're a squirrel and you're trying to collect nuts.
It's a ton of double entendres in a box, is what it is.
It was fun the first couple times, and then the humor gets old.
Yeah, as double entendre
Yeah.
humor does. And I was gonna say the game itself is just a very basic sort of take that set collecting game. So yeah. My next one is another game that we got based on everybody else saying it was awesome and never actually played. It is Arkham Horror. The thing was, after reading the rules, it didn't actually seem like our sort of game. I love Lovecraft type themes, but this one in particular, everyone's always raving about this, and I read the rules and I was like, I want to play something else. I didn't want to, after reading the rules, I didn't want to play this game, so it's just sat on the shelf and it's never gotten played. So I'm going to let someone else play this, because there are plenty of people out there who like this. I'm sure there's someone who's played it and likes it and wants a copy. So I'm going to get it to a resale shop, and hopefully someone who wants it will buy it. And that is Arkham Horror.
My next one is Card of the Dead. It's a little tiny card game where I think it's like Press Your Luck, right? It's sort of like a card version of...
I don't really remember. It's been a while since we played it a bunch, but then it's been a while since we played it.
I don't remember. I mean, it was fine, but I mean, we haven't played it in a very long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
We have newer portable games that we're more likely to bring with us when we need a small portable game.
For a little while, this was one of our go-to small footprint games, and then we got bored with it.
We brought this with us to one of the Gen Cons that we went to.
Yeah, to be like a game to play on Wednesday with
as
people.
Just like a game to, if you had like 2 hours to kill,
To just play a few games of, But yeah, it's been replaced by other smaller games. That's the thing with little games like that. They're very simple, and if you get bored with them, you're going to get rid of them. Now, my next one is not a little game. It's the biggest game we're calling. It is the game Rune Wars. Now, a lot of people have described this as a fantasy version of Twilight Imperium, and that is not a bad description. It really did feel like a fantasy version of Twilight Imperium. There was a lot of cool stuff in here. I did like it. I actually liked it quite a bit when we first played it. But the problem is, this is a big, epic 4X game that takes all day. And I don't know how many of those I have room in my collection for. And generally speaking, when it comes down to it, if I have a bunch of people around and we're going to play a big, epic 4X game, at this point, it's going to be Twilight Imperium. So this just doesn't hit the table. Even though I like it. Even though I've enjoyed this game quite a bit. And I've actually played it a number of times. But after playing it a number of times, I came to the conclusion that I just would not play it over Twilight Imperium, and that's why I'm culling it. And it does kind of make me sad, because I did actually enjoy this game. But that is Rune Wars. And this is the 4X Rune Wars, not the... I think they gave the exact same name to the tabletop miniature game in the same universe, because that's not confusing.
Maybe it has a subtitle.
I don't know.
Well, I think this is the last game, right?
I think so.
It is Say Adios to the Villains. I think it came in one of the AEG boxes.
It did.
We never played it, although it's opened. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
We might have looked at it.
Did it come shrink wrapped?
Well, we might have done an unboxing.
Maybe, yeah.
But never published it because we never actually played it.
Yeah, it's well, how many players? For 3 to 8 players, there was like.
So it's meant to be a big number of players.
Yeah, there was like that one year where all of them was like the minimum was 3 players, except for I think was that the Cat Lady year. We got Cat Lady 2, and that was the only one we liked.
I don't know. I don't know if it was the same year.
It was like a bunch of little games where you needed a bunch of people, and it's like, great, that's useless.
It's hard to... I was going to say, in recent years, the AEG Game Night boxes have fluctuated in quality quite a bit. They used to invariably be good, and you would really look forward to them, and everybody was like, oh, these are amazing. And then there was one year they were terrible, and there was the next year where they were just okay, and then the next year they were kind of bad again. And... I don't know. Like I've always had AEG as AEG Big Game Night as a must attend event when going to Gen Con because of what a great event it is, plus the loot. But lately, I've been getting to the point where I may not think of it as a must attend event anymore, because there's been a few years where I've been like, oh man, with the stuff in the box.
This year they announced the games beforehand instead of just giving you little hints. And there's that game that I was really excited about, the Point Salad.
Point Salad, yeah.
So.
Well, we will have to try that out. And we're definitely getting it. We know we're getting it because we're going to the AG Big Game Night. So there you have it. That is everything we are culling from our collection. Let us know in the comments down below. Would you have culled these games? What do you think? If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see us do more like it in the future, be sure to give it a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.